Okay, thinking about this, thinking about how I expect it to work, I think I should not open the file stream. Not just as I start this. And I shouldn't just close it here. I am not certain about this. I think I'm just going to open it periodically and momentarily while the render is in process, and I'm going to do that using a timer. Timer which I'm going to start here. But rather than having, I think, render log as my new global, I think it will be render timer. And it will go null for now. And what will happen is that in begin render, render timer will equal new timer, hertz and fired, and the hertz will be 1 to begin with, so it'll go once a second, and it will be update render. I don't know if I need to call end render here, if you know what I mean. Do I need to terminate and nullify render process? If render process start failed, will terminate fail because start failed? I would expect it not to. Render process is still an object, so there I nullify it if it needs to be, and the timer doesn't get set up. What's the problem with this? Oh, update render does not exist. In function update render void, something happens. First thing I do is say if render process else end, because somehow it might be possible this gets called whilst render process is null. Keeping my eye on this. So, assuming there is a render process, I'm not really going to get information out of it. Well, first thing I'll say, if there's not a render process, I'll say if render timer, then render timer cancel, yeah, and render timer equals null. So if I come here without a process, don't come back. Now, is there something else I need to think about that? Don't know. So, render timer has called update render. Now what I need to do is say local file, I'll call it fs, file stream equals file stream open. Here we go again. I have to say local equals app_dir plus log render log name open. Then I have to say if get file type ln equals is greater or less than file type file, do something. Well, first off, maybe I'll just do it this way around. Assuming you get the file, do something else. I think you gotta get rid of it. If for some reason there is not a render log name when this is being called, if there's not a render log, then you want to ditch it. You want to say render process terminate. I want to say end render. And actually in here I think is where I also want to say, well, could I say if arg. I'll say if render timer. Render timer cancel and render timer equals null. And I will just check this as well, if render process end. So I can just call end render in either case, and whatever happens, end render should clear up. This opens ln log name, comma, to read. Now, man, I have to think about what exactly I want to happen here. Mainly what I want is to nip through this log file, find the end of it, and see what the last line is. But also what I'd quite like to do is display the last line of the log file on the screen somewhere, and that well, for now be the display of the, you know, the update of your rendering state. That even if I just display just down at the bottom in the center, rendering such and such, or whatever the last line from the render process was. Now, the thing about that is, how do I want that display to work? I can make this update something that's appearing on the screen. So I could just create an aspect of the editor which was the update message. And, you know, it could just be information about what's happened. It could give you error messages if the render failed for some reason. It could give I don't know what it could give. Probably mainly it's for updating about this. So I'm just trying to consider if there is a situation, another situation in which I would use the error message. If I should build in some sort of functionality to this update message, which just says it only stays on the screen for a maximum length of time, or you cancel it. I mean, in these ways, it's more like an info box, you know. Me. So what might be better is something that you can open and close and just shows the last line of information. But no, I kind of don't like that idea as much, particularly for the rendering situation. When you're in a rendering situation, I do like the idea of just having white writing on the screen saying, currently rendering such and such. So, I think that in preparation for making this work, I will make that. And what that is what? It's a text, it's a G-text. One of the actual GUI classes now. What on earth? Okay, yeah, so I can... This is a really silly sort of... I think I'll just use gprint string xy color size. Makes a lot more sense. Let me think for a moment. Okay, so yeah, gprint. What on earth? I did this so niftily, it seems, compared to other things I've done. Oh gosh, okay, so I want some way of saying what's on the screen, what's the text, and maybe I want some way of saying, maybe I do want some way of making this text go away eventually, or giving it a timer, or no, I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, the reason I'm in doubt is I'm thinking, how important is it going to be to get a piece of that information back? If, like, how often is it going to say something like, render failed? This is not going to be a super secure thing. It really isn't when I think about it, and I'm not proud of that, but I suppose I can build something into the render. Like, to secure it against crashes just in my logic, say, for the clipping. If another little tear happens to be there, what happens if the clipping fails? What happens if the render does crash? According to this way that I'm doing it, I can't actually see. I won't know. But I think I'm just going to have to continue. I can't see another way of doing it, and I would quite like to see if this works, so I have to think clearly for a moment just about the structure of what it is, of the structure that I want to use to display a piece of information on the screen. Because I don't want it to hang around forever. I think that the structure is going to be a gosh darn button. And that is what it's going to be. No, I just really don't like it. I don't like it for the... No, okay. No, messages are just going to appear and they're going to disappear after 10 seconds automatically. And if they whenever the content of it's changed, it will, you know, it'll stay for another 10 seconds, but then it'll disappear. And the sort of the functionality for making it work is going to be built into this outside part on render. This state situation is going to go away. But one moment, I'm going to pause for a second. Okay. I was saying the waiting state, yeah, all of this state stuff is just going to go away, I think. Isn't it? There is only really normal state. I want there to be, and so there is. I guess I can just take all this and stick it after here. And in here, no, there is no more that. And there is no more this. There is only this. But also, there's something slightly different. There is also write the info. Like this is the info is a terrible thing, basically. It's like what I really do want, and why I'm hesitating about it, is I want a kind of gadget that just displays it, displays the last one, doesn't have it interfere with the screen. But the shape of my GUI, which I don't really want to change, isn't appropriate for showing something like that. It's not, a little button can't show that much of that text. Clicking the button, yeah, it could open something to show it. Still don't really like that option. Whilst a render is happening, I want it to be more clear and on screen. I might just make a last error message button somewhere. I may have to enclose some other options for the overall editor, and I suppose I could just keep a track of all the messages that I've shown. Yeah. Might end up being a lot of messages. Do I just want to store a maximum? No, for now it's just going to be one message. And it's going to appear on the screen here. This is the bit of code where I'm going to draw it. And I have to decide how I'm going to do that, because sometimes nothing is going to draw here. When is something going to draw? Well, it's a whole bit of stuff, really. It will be drawn, yeah, after the gadget. And it will be like this. If the cursor message. Message on. I could just do a bool check. I mean, because I can just do something like if recursor message. I could use timers for this as well, couldn't I? No, I'm not going to. No. If recursor message is greater than 0, g print recursor. Actually, that I'll read message time. It's not very wise, that, but that's the way it's going to be. G print recursor message, comma. What have I got inside recursor that can help me with this? Recursor GUI. Okay. I don't set anything outside. I will now bar width equals button medium times 1.5. Out here I will set global and I won't set it in here. This tells me the width of the bar. This thing, it's called top bar. Okay, fine. I will call it width, and in here I will say bar width float equals bar width, because I'm just too lazy to go through that function just now. Actually, no, I'm not. It's only a couple of things, I think. And this. And everything else is taken from the face of the bar. Yeah. So I will take out this. And I just have GUI bar width. Recursor GUI bar width plus 2.0 comma 2.0 if it needs it. Probably doesn't. I might just say 0.0, and here I will just say 1 and see comma G color white V. VA will do, but I will also use AV and line height. Okay. Now I have recursor message time, and message. It is nice that this is a bit cleaner now. Still, I kind of hope to be able to get rid of these. Set state, it's like I really do hope to, so much so that I'm going to rhyme them out. And I'm going to, like, I haven't missed these ones. So, what do I need? I've got these things. Render process, state equals null state. Don't think that's going to be needed at all. I guess I will have them here. Global message string equals to dit message time equals uint equals 0. And I'll have function new message void and passes a string and a time, which I'll make a default of 600, which is a silly number, but it'll be like 10 seconds at 60 frames a second, or much, much longer if you're going slow. But it shouldn't matter because a message equals new message and message time equals t. And also in here I do want to say there's our message time minus equals 1. And what? And that is that. Down, now down. Begin render, end render, and all the way back here in an update render. What I need to do is something like local line string equals data while not fs o file stream end of file. I guess line equals fs read line. This is the way I'm doing it. And here, if line is greater or less than dit and new message line. And if line equals render complete. End render. Which will terminate the process, make the process null, terminate the time, cancel the timer, make the timer null. I think I'll say some other things. Like in here, I can say new message. Render log name plus dit not found. Not found. And here I can say new message. And what is it really I'm saying here? I'm saying update render called without render I have a feeling I'm going to start sticking new messages in a lot of places. Now, insanely, I will have to, okay, I'm going to have some sort of way of making a distinction, like that there's another way out of this which is not going to have render complete. It's going to have, you know, something about being abandoned. Let me look for a sec. I want the bit that looks through that to be so fast. Opening and closing the file, I just don't know how long that'll take. It's like, I just have a feeling it's going to be a minute. And if it's doing it every second, I'll just see. I'll see. Let me think what really is happening. Rendering animation, render complete. I need to make this distinction. At this point, it is not really... It's not really being abandoned, is it? Sorry, I'm just considering, because I could still say abandoned. I could say this is different here. If it gets to the end of this, then fine, I do a normal close. I don't do abandon. I still do app.terminate. I still do log. Why would it have lost it in the meantime? I don't know. Log fs right line. Here's a little thing I'll just do. Also, there's something else I'm going to do. This is not really going to be the render log, I don't think. The render log will be longer and more detailed. This will be the render update file, or the... yeah. And it will be called render update. And this is going to be the render. I can't believe I don't remember what I was just doing. Right, the render update finish string equals complete and render error render finish error string this has to be render finish. And now I have to say if line I suppose I'll do else. If line left render finish render error length equals render error and new message. Okay, yeah, also end error end render. So it will display it in any circumstances. If there's a line, it gets shown. If the line is to finish, it ends. This could just be an if or, couldn't it? I'm assuming that that is the correct logic. I think it is, and I'm going to assume it's one or the other, and it'll display it either way. This is render finish, and I also say log fs close and log fs equals null. Not really necessary probably because it's about to do app terminate. I'm hoping this app terminate does work, because otherwise, well, otherwise it'll get called twice is basically what will happen. And here it actually needs to render error plus out. And that's all fine. All those things I think can stay. Okay. So if that logic's correct, it'll nip to the end of the file. Now that's why I'm making the render update distinct from something else, which will be that'll be the render log file, which will be given a separate name depending on the file, and it won't be used. It'll be something that render will generate, but yeah, it's so that to keep this nippy, and something else has to happen right about here. I need to say fs close and fs equals null. Again, redundant, it's about to jump out of this function, but I find myself doing it anyway. I'm going over time here, and I don't want to just run it just now. Although I must admit, it's getting to the point where I'm thinking, what else needs to happen? Now this isn't going to be complete. One thing that's going to happen is Well, yeah, rendering the animation will basically not work yet, because it will never reach. Sorry, I'm in the wrong code. This will happen, but it will never reach a point where it knows. Vid render message, may as well get rid of those, they're just totally pointless. It'll never reach a point where it knows that that's finished, unless I code in a similar thing to what's happening here for FFmpeg. So I'm going to leave it at that just now. I'm going to come back and do another bit. Like, I'm going to just have a think and see if I've covered the logic, say at least to render images, to tell you that you're interrupting a render if that's what you're doing. And that's about it. Yeah, that is about it. Okay, next time.